Billy here, Fix It for Fun. Okay, today we got the XR150L. A little windy out here today. Hope you guys can hear me. Alright, what is the actual fuel mileage on this thing? We're going to test that today. What Honda claims is 124 miles per gallon. Okay, they claim 346 miles for one tank. That seems amazing to me. So we're going to find out how true that was. I've run a test on it, but before we get to that, let's talk about the braking on this thing. You know, when I first got this bike, I was under the impression that a lot of people were upset with the rear drum brake. I read a couple times online that the rear brake was useless, it being a drum, you know, instead of a disc. So when I drove it off the lot, the front brake worked really well. It was nice and strong, and the rear brake, it didn't really seem to, I mean, it did slow me down, but it just, you pressed hard on it, it didn't seem like a lot happened. So mainly what I used the rear brake for was letting people know behind me in traffic, you know, that hey, I'm slowing down, so I would get to tapping that rear brake just to let people know, you know, flashing that rear light, which I'm sure is a common practice, but something I figured out on my own, which is probably a good idea for everybody to do. Anyways, and then after I rode the bike about 25 or 30 miles, I noticed that rear brake, the shoes started bedding in. And that rear brake, I tell you what, it grabs really well now. I've got, let's see, I'm right at 406 miles. Okay, on the bike, 406 miles. And that rear brake, I haven't had to lock it up. I have locked it up a couple times in the dirt, off-road and stuff like that, but I feel like I could lock it up on the pavement if I had to. I've gotten to where I don't use the front brake at all unless I'm kind of in an emergency situation where I need to stop real fast, where I try to use them both together. But also when I'm coming to a stop, because you know, it seems like this bike, this bike stops a lot quicker than a car, so I don't need to be hitting the brakes yet to slow down before I come up against the next car in front of me. So what I do is I'll tap that front brake just a little bit, not enough to engage it, just enough to let the light on, so that that way you know, the people can see behind me that I'm running the brake light and they know I'm slowing down. So you know, hey, after a while that thing did bed in. I don't know that I need to adjust it. It doesn't really have a lot of free play. It feels about the same amount as, you know, kind of when I got it. Okay, another thing, when I got this bike, I checked the oil on it, and I don't know if you know this, but when you check the oil, you're supposed to stand this bike straight up, not leaning on its side, on level ground, straight up, and then you unscrew this cap right here, and you don't put the cap on, you don't screw the cap back down, you just set it in there, and you check the oil that way, wipe the stick off and put it back in there and check it. And after 406 miles, I'm at almost a little lower than the middle of the operating range. So it's burned just a little bit of oil. It was right above the operating range when I got it. I have not done the first oil change on this bike yet. The manual says I need to do it at 600 miles, but now that I need to add a little bit of oil to it, I'm probably just going to change it right now, and before I get to the 600 miles. Okay, now on to the mileage. I filled this bike up at 205, and then I drove it till 360. That is when it shut off on me. It was exactly, I think that was the miles, it was exactly 155 miles. It was like 155 and a half miles. Now I read online, or maybe it was another video, somebody else commented on their XR150L that they got 150 miles to the tank before they had to switch it to the reserve. And I mean, it is right on the money, guys. 155 miles. So, and how I come to that conclusion was when I filled it up, you know, I set my tripometer. In case you guys didn't know, these bikes do have a tripometer right there. Yeah. Anyway, so as soon I didn't want to run out in traffic, but you know, I recorded the mileage anyways, and I went ahead and did it. And I'm going to tell you right now, this thing did not spit or sputter. It didn't do anything other than that. At 155 miles exactly, I was decelerating to turn into the Walmart parking lot, actually. And when I did, it died. And I mean, I felt that it didn't have any power. And I said in a previous video, or a previous comment, that I've been practicing reaching down and flipping that thing onto reserve while I'm driving. And yeah, that doesn't help in the heat of the moment right there. It's kind of tough to do that kind of stuff. So anyways, I had to pull over, and when I flipped it onto the reserve, it did not just start right up, of course, because the carburetor was dry. So I gave it, you know, 30 seconds or so to fill the carburetor up under you know, gravity, and then it still didn't start. So I flipped the choke on, and as soon as I flipped the choke all the way on, it fired right up. And then I flipped the choke off, and I took off and headed to the gas station. So let me get my marker here. The range without the reserve was 155 miles. Okay, so then when you calculate that, what we come up with, the gas tank, like I said, is 2.77 gallons. So when we calculated that, we ended up with 73.46 miles per gallon. Okay, so Honda says you can go 346 miles. You can actually go 155. Honda says you're getting 124 miles to the gallon. You're actually getting 73.46. So the total fuel range on this bike, you know, after you flip the reserve on and keep going, is going to be 203.48 miles. So that's still a pretty good, you know, range. That'll get you to the next gas station. You know, 203 miles is you're not going to ride this bike 203 miles before you want to get off anyways, guys. And then we calculated the reserve range. Once you flip it, you got 48 miles, 0.48. So 48.48 miles. Oh, I'm sorry, this up here is a 6.46. Okay, so yeah, anyways, that's where we're at. Now, I don't know how Honda came up with those numbers. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. I don't know if they put a 10-year-old on this bike and put it on a treadmill and set it in fourth gear at 42 miles an hour and just never variated the throttle once. I mean, even if you did that, I don't know how you come up with 346 miles. So I'm not gonna lie, I do weigh 255 pounds right now. So, you know, of course that's going to take away from the mileage, but I want to say the other guy that said he got 155 miles, he weighed 180. So I can't find his post, so I'm not exactly sure about that. Now, about how I rode the bike, it was probably half of it was at 55 miles, or, you know, 40 to 55 miles an hour. I rode it back and forth for about a week on that tank, and you know, really kind of rang it out for about half the tank. And the other half of the tank was probably driving around slow around town about 30 miles an hour, 25, 30, just cruising on back roads, not even hammering on it at all. I mean, just taking it nice and easy, you know. So, and then we probably got about 5 to 7 miles, maybe that off-road. But you know, when you're running off-road, it's a lot harder. You're staying down in first gear, and you know, you're doing a lot more idling time and stuff like that while you're stopping and talking to your buddies and stuff. So anyways, that's the kind of fuel mileage I got out of it. So, you know, nowhere near what, you know, Honda said. But anyways, if there's anything else you guys want to know about this bike, just ask me a question in the comments and I'll take care of it. If this video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.